The stars glittered like diamonds against the vast black void of space as Commander Maya Alden sat at the helm of her spacecraft, the Horizon. The hum of the ship's engines was a comforting, familiar sound, one that had accompanied her on countless missions across the galaxy. This mission, however, was different. There was a tension in the air, a weight of responsibility that pressed down on her. Beside her, seated in the co-pilot's chair, was Ambassador Zalith, a diplomat from the Salan species. The Zalans were an enigmatic and ancient race, their technological advancements and biological capabilities far beyond that of humanity. They were humanoid in appearance, but there was an ethereal quality to them that made it clear they were something otherworldly. Zalith in particular was imposing, tall, with shimmering silver skin that reflected the lights of the control panel, and eyes that glowed with a deep, unearthly violet. His presence unnerved most humans, but Maya had learned to work alongside him with a quiet respect. Their mission was simple, but critical. Deliver a high-priority data core containing sensitive intelligence to Neris 9, a starbase on the edge of the known galaxy. The cargo was highly classified, and rumors whispered that the Zalans had provided technology so advanced it could change the course of intergalactic diplomacy. Maya didn't know the full details, and she didn't need to. All she cared about was getting her crew and her ship safely to their destination. But the universe had other plans. As they passed through the outer rim of the Halcyon Nebula, the ship's sensors began to blare warnings. Maya's hands flew over the controls, her eyes narrowing as she analyzed the readings. "A gravitational anomaly is forming ahead," she muttered, her voice tight with concentration. "It's not on any of our charts." Zalith's voice was calm, almost too calm. "I sense something. The fabric of space here is disturbed." Before Maya could respond, the ship lurched violently. The gravitational anomaly was pulling them in like a massive vortex, and the ship's systems were struggling to keep up. Sparks flew from the control panel, and warning lights flashed across every screen. "Brace for impact," Maya shouted, her hands gripping the controls as she fought to stabilize the ship. The crew scrambled, securing themselves in their seats, but it was too late. The anomaly tore through the ship like a storm, its gravitational forces shredding the hull and snapping metal supports like twigs. The last thing Maya saw before everything went dark was the blinding flash of light as the ship disintegrated around her. Maya awoke to the sensation of hot, gritty sand against her skin. She blinked, disoriented, her vision blurred as she struggled to sit up. The sky above her was a deep shade of purple, with two large moons hanging low on the horizon, casting a pale, eerie glow over the landscape. The air was dry and suffocating, each breath she took feeling like sandpaper against her throat. She was alive, somehow. The remains of her ship were scattered across the barren terrain, pieces of twisted metal half buried in the sand. Fires flickered in the distance where parts of the wreckage still smoldered, but there was no sign of the crew, just silence, broken only by the distant howl of the wind. "Zalith," Maya croaked, her voice hoarse. She pushed herself to her feet, scanning the area. There, a few meters away, she spotted him. Zalith was lying face down in the sand, his silver skin dulled by the dust and debris. She stumbled over to him, her legs weak from the crash. "Zalith," she called again, shaking his shoulder. He stirred, groaning softly as he rolled onto his back. His violet eyes fluttered open, meeting hers. For a moment, there was a flash of confusion in his gaze, but then it cleared, and he sat up slowly, his movements graceful despite the chaos around them. "We survived," Maya said, though the words felt hollow. Zalith nodded, his expression unreadable. "The anomaly. It tore the ship apart, but something else saved us." Maya frowned. "What do you mean?" Zalith's eyes narrowed as he glanced around the desolate landscape. "This place, it is not ordinary. The forces here are unnatural. We should have been obliterated, yet we are alive." Maya didn't have the luxury to dwell on the mystery of their survival. Her first priority was to assess the situation. "We need to find shelter," she said, her voice taking on the commanding tone of a seasoned officer. "We need to figure out what resources we have and how we're going to survive until we can send a distress signal." She retrieved a small survival kit from the wreckage, her mind racing through protocols for crash landings. But this planet wasn't on any of their charts, and that meant rescue could take days, weeks, or even longer if anyone even knew where they were. Together, Maya and Zalith scouted the area, looking for any usable supplies. The planet was barren, a desert world with no visible signs of life. The only thing they could rely on was what little they had salvaged from the crash. They set up a makeshift camp near the wreckage, using pieces of the ship to create a crude shelter against the harsh sun that beat down on them during the day and the freezing temperatures that settled in at night. As the days passed, the reality of their situation began to sink in. They were stranded. Maya tried every possible way to repair the ship's communications array, but it was hopeless. Without a way to contact anyone, they were alone. Zalith, for his part, remained calm, though Maya could sense that he was hiding something. There was a quiet tension in the way he moved, the way he stared at the horizon for long periods, as if listening for something only he could hear. One evening, as they sat around the dim glow of a fire, Maya finally broke the silence. "You're not telling me everything, are you?" Zalith glanced at her, his violet eyes glowing faintly in the firelight. "There is more to this place than meets the eye, Commander. I have felt disturbances in the energy of this planet. There are forces here that are beyond our understanding." Maya frowned. "What kind of forces?" Zalith's gaze drifted to the sky, where the two moons hung like silent sentinels. "This world is old, ancient. I do not think we were brought here by accident." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. She had always known the Zolans were mysterious, their knowledge of the universe far surpassing that of humanity. But now, stranded on an uncharted planet, that mystery felt like a ticking time bomb. "What do you think is out there?" Maya asked, her voice barely a whisper. Zalith didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft, almost reverent. "I think we are not alone." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Maya stared into the fire, her mind racing. If Zalith was right, if there was something else on this planet, something ancient and powerful, then their fight for survival had only just begun. And in the back of her mind, she couldn't shake the feeling that their presence on this world was no accident. Something had brought them here, and whatever it was watching, waiting. Maya had always prided herself on her adaptability. As a commander in the Earth Stellar Fleet, she'd faced her share of impossible situations, life or death missions, close encounters with hostile forces, even the vacuum of space itself. But nothing in her training had prepared her for this, being stranded on an unknown planet with a mysterious alien and no clear path to survival. Days turned into weeks, the sun rising and setting over the barren landscape of the planet. Every day was a battle, finding enough food, preserving water, repairing what little technology had survived the crash. Yet as time passed, the harshness of their situation began to feel like the least of Maya's concerns. Zalith's cryptic remarks weighed heavily on her mind. He spoke of forces beyond human understanding, of energies that couldn't be explained by science or logic. His calm demeanor, so unlike any human's reaction to their circumstances, only fueled her suspicion that he knew more than he was letting on. One night, as they sat around their small fire under the twin moons, Maya finally pressed him for answers. "You said this planet isn't normal," she said, her voice edged with frustration. "What did you mean by that exactly?" Zalith was silent for a moment, his violet eyes reflecting the firelight as he stared into the distance. Then, in a voice that was quieter than usual, he began to explain. "Before we crashed, I sensed a disruption in the fabric of space-time," he said. "The anomaly wasn't natural, it was created. Whether it was intended to pull us here, I cannot say. But I do know that this world, it holds a deep, ancient energy, something older than both of our civilizations." Maya felt a shiver run down her spine, the hairs on the back of her neck standing on end. Created by who? And why? Zalith's gaze met hers, his eyes almost glowing in the firelight. "I do not know, Commander, but I can sense that this place is watching us. It is alive in ways you may not yet understand." Maya leaned back, her mind racing. She wasn't a stranger to the unknown, Space was filled with mysteries. But what Zaleth was suggesting went beyond anything she'd ever encountered. This planet, this seemingly lifeless wasteland, could be something more than it appeared. But as the days passed, Maya found her focus shifting from the external mysteries to something far more personal. Her own body. It started with strange dreams. Every night when Maya closed her eyes, she found herself in vivid, alien landscapes. Colors she couldn't name swirled around her, and she could feel the presence of something, someone, watching her. In many of these dreams, Zaleth appeared, but not in his usual form. He was fluid, his silver skin shifting and changing, merging with the environment around him. His violet eyes always locked onto hers, intense and almost possessive. Maya awoke from these dreams each morning feeling disoriented and unsettled. The sensations lingered long after she was awake, as if the dream world was bleeding into reality. Her body felt different, heavier, more sensitive. At first, she thought it was just the stress of their situation, or perhaps something in the planet's atmosphere affecting her biology. But as the days went on, she began to notice undeniable changes. Her senses were sharper. She could see farther, hear the faintest of sounds in the wind. Her skin tingled with an energy she couldn't explain, and there was an odd warmth in her abdomen, a subtle but constant pulsing sensation that seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. It wasn't long before Maya confronted Zaleth. They were scavenging near the wreckage one afternoon when Maya stopped, turning to him abruptly. "Something's happening to me," she said, her tone more demanding than questioning. "I've been feeling different, stronger, more aware, and it started after we crashed." Zaleth turned to her, his expression calm but serious. "I have sensed it as well." Maya's eyes widened. "You knew? And you didn't think to tell me?" "I wasn't certain at first," Zaleth replied, his voice steady. "But now it is clear. Our connection is growing." Maya blinked, confusion knotting her brow. "Connection? What connection?" Zaleth stepped closer, his towering form casting a shadow over her. His violet eyes seemed to pierce through her as he spoke. "The Zalan people do not reproduce as humans do. We do not require biological compatibility in the same way. Our process is different. It requires a deep bond, one that transcends the physical. It is spiritual, energetic. I believe our bond has initiated this process." Maya stared at him, her mind reeling. "You're saying I'm pregnant? With an alien child?" Zaleth nodded slowly. "Yes, a hybrid created from the connection we've formed." Maya took a step back, her heart pounding in her chest. "This is impossible," she whispered, her voice shaking. "How could this happen? We didn't—" Zaleth cut her off gently. "It is not a physical process, Maya. The bond between us, forged through our shared survival and energy, has triggered something far deeper. My species does not need the act of mating to create life. The life inside you was conceived through our connection, through the merging of our essences." Maya's mind was a whirlwind of disbelief, fear, and confusion. She pressed a hand to her abdomen, feeling the strange warmth that had been growing there. Could it really be true? Could she be carrying a child, an alien hybrid, inside her without even realizing it? "This can't be happening," she muttered, her breath quickening. Zaleth's voice remained calm, though his eyes softened as he looked at her. "I know this is difficult to accept, but it is real. The life inside you is a part of both of us, a new being created from the essence of two worlds." Maya shook her head, backing away from him. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't choose this." "I understand," Zaleth said softly, "but the process has already begun. The child will be extraordinary, a bridge between our species." Maya turned away, struggling to process the enormity of what she was hearing. Her thoughts raced, her mind filled with questions she didn't have the answers to. What would this child be like? How would she give birth on a barren alien world? And most of all, how had she let this happen without even realizing it? That night, as she lay in the shelter they had built, Maya tried to make sense of her new reality. The warmth in her abdomen had grown stronger, more insistent, as if the child inside her was already making itself known. She placed a hand on her stomach, her thoughts swirling in a mix of fear, awe, and confusion. She had always been in control, always been the one to lead, to make decisions. But now something beyond her understanding was unfolding inside her. A new life, part human, part Zalan, created not by choice, but by some ancient cosmic force that she couldn't begin to comprehend. As sleep overtook her, the vivid dreams returned, dreams of galaxies swirling in infinite patterns, of life forms shifting and merging, and always, Zalith watching her from the shadows, his violet eyes glowing with an intensity that seemed to burn into her soul. The bond between them, whether she liked it or not, was growing, and with it, the life inside her. What that meant for their future, and the future of the universe, was something Maya was no longer sure she was ready to face. But ready or not, it was happening. And soon, there would be no turning back. Maya woke with a start, her heart pounding as the remnants of yet another strange dream faded from her mind. Her hand instinctively moved to her abdomen, feeling the warmth that had now become a constant presence. The child was growing, there was no denying it now. What had once been disbelief and shock had shifted into a complex mix of acceptance, curiosity, and fear. She sat up, looking around the small shelter she and Zalith had constructed from the remnants of their ship. The air was cooler than usual this morning, and the twin moons still hovered on the horizon, casting long shadows over the barren landscape. Zalith was outside, meditating as he often did at dawn, his tall, silver form motionless as he faced the rising sun. Maya took a deep breath, her thoughts racing. The reality of her situation was overwhelming, yet she had no choice but to accept it. She was carrying a hybrid child, a fusion of human and Zalan biology, conceived not through any physical act, but through some deep, inexplicable connection between her and Zalith. A connection that seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. The child, Saren, as she had named it in her mind, was already influencing the world around them in ways Maya didn't fully understand. The planet itself seemed to respond to the pregnancy, as if aware of the extraordinary being growing inside her. Strange phenomena had begun to occur, unexplained light storms in the distance, pulses of energy that made the ground tremble, and ancient structures slowly emerging from the sands as if awakened by Saren's presence. Maya rose and stepped outside, her eyes adjusting to the brightening sky. Zalith opened his eyes as she approached, his violet gaze meeting hers with a calm intensity. "How are you feeling?" he asked, his voice soft but resonant. Maya sighed, placing a hand on her lower back. "Tired. It's hard to sleep when the dreams won't stop." Zalith nodded, his expression unreadable as always. "The dreams are part of the process. Saren is already influencing your mind, sharing visions of possibilities yet to come." "Visions," Maya muttered. "That's one way to put it." She hesitated for a moment before asking the question that had been gnawing at her for days. "What will Saren be like, Zalith? I mean, what will they become?" Zalith looked toward the horizon, his face serene but thoughtful. "Saren will be unique, a being of two worlds, created from the essence of both human and Zalan. But Saren is not just a child of biological fusion. This planet, this place, it is part of the equation as well." Maya frowned, her mind struggling to keep up with the layers of mystery that surrounded them. This planet? What does it have to do with the child? Zalith turned back to her, his eyes glowing faintly with that same eerie light she had come to associate with his people. "The energies of this world are ancient, far older than either of our civilizations. I believe we were brought here for a reason. Saren's birth is connected to the planet itself. The life growing inside you is awakening something powerful." Maya's stomach twisted in a knot. "Are you saying this planet is alive?" "Not in the way you understand life," Zalith said. "But there are forces here that are aware, forces that have been dormant for millennia. Saren's presence is triggering an awakening." Maya wrapped her arms around herself, trying to process his words. She had known from the beginning that this planet was strange, that there was something off about the way it seemed to react to them. But now, with the pregnancy, the signs were impossible to ignore. The light storms, the pulses of energy, everything was building toward something. "An awakening for what?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Zaleth's gaze softened, and for a moment she saw something in his eyes she hadn't seen before, a flicker of uncertainty. I do not know, but I sense it will change the course of our futures. Days turned into weeks, and Maya's pregnancy advanced rapidly, far faster than any human pregnancy should. Within a matter of weeks, her body swelled with life, her movements slower and more labored as the child grew. The strain on her body was immense, but Zaleth was always there, providing guidance and support in his calm, unshakable way. Saren, as Maya had come to call the child, was not just a passive passenger in her body. The baby communicated with her, not in words, but through sensations, dreams, and sometimes even direct thoughts. Maya could feel Saren's awareness, its consciousness developing at a rate that far exceeded any human child. There were moments when she could almost hear Saren's voice in her mind, a soft, curious whisper, asking questions about the world around it. The bond between mother and child was unlike anything Maya had ever imagined, and despite the fear and uncertainty, she found herself talking to Saren during the quiet moments of the day, telling stories of Earth, of space, of the life she had once known. But as Saren grew, so did the planet's response. The ancient structures that had begun to rise from the sands now stood as towering monuments, crumbling spires of stone and metal, clearly built by an advanced civilization long forgotten. Strange markings adorned the structures, symbols and runes that glowed faintly in the darkness. Maya and Zaleth had explored them, finding remnants of long-abandoned technology, some of it so advanced that even Zaleth could not decipher its purpose. One evening, as they stood before one of the towering structures, Maya felt a sudden sharp pain in her abdomen. She gasped, clutching her stomach as the pain rippled through her body. Zaleth was at her side in an instant, his hand on her shoulder, his eyes filled with concern. "It's time," he said softly. Maya's heart raced. "Already?" Zaleth nodded. "Saren is ready to be born." They rushed back to their camp, Zaleth helping Maya as her contractions began to intensify. The pain was overwhelming, far worse than anything she had ever imagined. But it wasn't just physical. There was something else, something deeper happening. She could feel the planet itself reacting, the ground trembling beneath her as if it too was preparing for the birth. As the hours passed, the sky darkened and the two moons rose higher, casting an ethereal glow over the landscape. Maya lay on the makeshift bed they had constructed, breathing heavily as the contractions came faster and harder. Zaleth knelt beside her, his presence a calming force amidst the chaos. "You're doing well, Maya," he whispered, his voice soothing. "Saren is strong. You are strong." Maya gritted her teeth, her body racked with pain. She could feel Saren moving inside her, ready to emerge, but there was something more, an energy building around them, growing stronger with each passing second. Suddenly there was a flash of light, and the ground beneath them shook violently. Maya cried out, her body convulsing as the energy surged through her. It felt as though the planet itself was alive, responding to the birth with a power she couldn't comprehend. And then, with one final, agonizing push, Saren was born. Maya collapsed back onto the bed, gasping for breath, her body trembling with exhaustion. She barely had the strength to lift her head, but when she did, she saw Zaleth holding the child in his arms. Saren was beautiful. The baby's skin shimmered with a silver hue, much like Zaleth's, but there were traces of human features as well. Soft, delicate flesh mixed with the glowing, ethereal qualities of the Zalan race. The baby's eyes were the most striking, large and violet, filled with an awareness that was far beyond its age. Zaleth placed the child in Maya's arms, and as she looked into Saren's eyes, she felt an overwhelming sense of connection, of love, of something far greater than herself. This was no ordinary child. Saren was something new, something extraordinary. As Maya cradled her newborn, the ground around them continued to tremble, and the sky above was lit with swirling patterns of light. The ancient structures, now fully awakened, pulsed with energy, their glowing symbols casting long shadows across the desert. The planet was alive with power, and Maya knew, in her heart, that Saren's birth had set something in motion, something that would change the course of history. You've done it, Zalith whispered, his voice filled with awe. Saren is the key. Maya looked up at him, her heart racing with a mixture of fear and wonder. The key to what? Zalith smiled faintly, his violet eyes glowing with a strange, ancient wisdom. To a new beginning. As the energy of the planet surged around them, Maya held Saren close, her mind racing with questions. But one truth remained clear. Nothing would ever be the same again. The air was alive with energy, and Maya could feel the vibrations running through the ground beneath her as she cradled Saren in her arms. The newborn's violet eyes glowed softly, taking in the world with a wisdom that felt far beyond infancy. Despite the exhaustion and pain from the birth, Maya's heart swelled with love for her child. Yet, beneath that love, a deep unease churned. The ground continued to tremble, and the ancient structures that had risen from the desert sands now stood like silent sentinels, glowing with pulses of energy that matched the rhythm of Saren's breathing. It was as if the planet itself had come to life, responding to the presence of the child. And deep down, Maya knew that this was no coincidence. Saren was the catalyst for something much larger, something that had been waiting to awaken for eons. Zalith knelt beside her, his expression calm, but filled with a reverence she had never seen before. The prophecy has been fulfilled, he whispered, his voice filled with awe. Saren's birth has activated the ancient energies of this world, this planet. It was waiting for this moment. Maya shook her head, still struggling to comprehend everything that had happened. Prophecy? What are you talking about? You never told me this. Zalith's eyes met hers, and for the first time she saw a vulnerability in him. I did not know the full truth until now. My people, the Zalans, have always believed in the existence of certain worlds that hold the power to reshape the cosmos. This planet is one of them. It was seeded with Zalan technology long ago, but its true potential could only be unlocked by the birth of a being that transcends both human and Zalan. Saren is that being. Maya's mind raced, the weight of Zalith's words sinking in. So Saren is supposed to do something, unlock this planet's power? Zalith nodded. Yes, Saren is the key. The child will grow to possess abilities that neither humans nor Zalans have ever known. The energy we've felt, the changes in the planet, it's all a reaction to Saren's presence. The technology here was designed to awaken when the hybrid was born. A pulse of energy rippled through the ground, causing Maya to instinctively tighten her grip on Saren. The child didn't cry or fuss, but gazed up at her, with those ancient, knowing eyes. There was something in Saren's expression that both comforted and unsettled Maya. This was no ordinary child. Saren was already more aware, more connected to the universe than any human infant could be. What happens now? Maya asked, her voice filled with uncertainty. What does this mean for us, for Saren? Zalith rose to his feet and gestured to the distant horizon, where the towering spires of the ancient structures loomed against the glowing sky. Now, we must face what this world holds. The energy that Saren has awakened is powerful, but it is also dangerous. There are forces here, ancient entities, long dormant, that will be drawn to the child. Some will seek to protect Saren, others will seek to control or destroy. Maya's blood ran cold at the thought. She had known that Saren's birth was extraordinary, but she hadn't fully grasped the magnitude of the danger that came with it. How do we protect Saren? How do we keep those forces away? Zalith's expression was somber. We cannot keep them away. But we can prepare. The structures here were built as part of a Zalan defense system. I believe they can be activated to shield us from what is coming. Coming? Maya echoed, her voice tight with fear. What's coming? Before Zalith could answer, the ground shook violently, and a deafening roar echoed across the desert. Maya clutched Saren tightly as the sky above them darkened, the swirling patterns of light coalescing into a vortex of energy. From the heart of the vortex, a massive portal opened, its edges crackling with lightning. The air became thick with a palpable force, as if the very fabric of reality was tearing apart. From the portal emerged shadowy figures, their forms cloaked in darkness, their eyes glowing with a malevolent light. Maya's heart pounded as the figures moved closer, their presence radiating a cold, otherworldly power. They've come for Saren, Zaleth said, his voice grim. They are the guardians of the void, beings from a time before even the Zalans. They were left behind to guard the ancient worlds, to prevent their power from being misused. But their understanding is flawed. They see Saren as a threat, not as the fulfillment of the prophecy. Maya's grip tightened around her child. Then we fight them. Zaleth shook his head. We cannot fight them, not with force. We must awaken the planet's defenses, the structures that have been dormant. Only then can we protect Saren. Maya's heart raced as she glanced toward the ancient spires in the distance. They had been exploring them for weeks, but had found no clear way to activate their systems. How do we do it? How do we turn them on? Zaleth's gaze shifted to Saren. The child knows. Saren is connected to this planet in ways we cannot understand. The answers are within Saren. Maya looked down at her newborn, whose glowing violet eyes seemed to be staring into the very heart of the universe. The child's awareness was undeniable, and for the first time, Maya understood just how much power Saren possessed. Saren, Maya whispered, her voice soft, can you help us? As if in response, Saren's small hand reached out, and the air around them began to hum with energy. The ground pulsed with light, and the ancient structures in the distance glowed brighter, their symbols flickering to life. The spires trembled, and a deep, resonant hum echoed through the air. Maya gasped as a wave of energy surged through her, emanating from Saren. The child's eyes glowed brighter, and suddenly the ancient technology responded. The towering structures shifted, their surfaces crackling with power. The ground beneath them rumbled, and a massive, transparent dome of light began to form around the structures, encasing them in a protective barrier. The shadowy figures halted in their tracks, their malevolent eyes narrowing as they realized they could not breach the barrier. For a moment, there was a tense silence as the guardians of the void hovered at the edge of the dome, their presence like a dark cloud threatening to engulf everything. Then, as quickly as they had appeared, the guardians retreated, dissolving into the vortex and vanishing into the night sky. The portal closed behind them with a deafening crack, and the air became still once more. Maya collapsed to her knees, clutching Saren tightly. Her heart was still pounding, her body trembling with adrenaline. Zaleth knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. You did it, he said softly. Saren did it. Maya looked down at her child, tears welling in her eyes. Saren's eyes had dimmed, the glow fading as the child drifted into a peaceful sleep. The energy around them had quieted, but the reality of what had just happened lingered in the air. Zaleth rose to his feet, gazing out at the now activated structures. The planet's defenses are in place. For now, we are safe. But this is only the beginning. The Guardians will not be the last to come for Saren. The child's power is too great to go unnoticed. Maya stood slowly, her body still weak from the birth. What do we do now? Zaleth turned to her, his expression solemn. We must leave this world. The portal that opened, it was not just an attack. It was a doorway to other realms, other places where Saren's destiny will unfold. We must find the Zalan protectors, the ones who have been waiting for this moment. Only they can help us navigate what lies ahead. Maya looked at the sky, where the stars glittered like diamonds in the void. The universe had always seemed vast and unknowable, but now it felt even more so. She had come here as a pilot, a commander on a mission for Earth's stellar fleet. Now she was a mother, holding the future of 2 species in her arms. She nodded, her resolve hardening. Then we go. We find the Zalans, and we protect Saren, whatever it takes. Zaleth smiled, his expression filled with a quiet respect. You are stronger than you know, Maya, and so is Saren. As the sun began to rise, casting a golden light over the awakened structures, Maya felt a sense of purpose she had never known before. The journey ahead would be dangerous, filled with unknowns, but she was no longer afraid. She had Saren, she had Zaleth, and she had a destiny to fulfill. Together they would face whatever the universe had in store. And Saren, the child of 2 worlds, would lead them into a new age, one that would reshape the stars themselves.